welcome to another edition of GW Unspoken, where we discuss stuff we don't typically talk about, but probably should. And we've just finished our series of health of the innate code, the 8 things I feel that makes up holistic health and well-being. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to those podcasts, maybe go back and have a listen to some of those things that may have, well, I guess may resonate with you, but also that you might be able to pass on to other people who may be struggling in life or just want to try and improve a few things. And everything we do on the podcast is being researched and also based on neuroscience. So I'm just a massive fan of neuroscience after working with Stronger Brains, because it's neuroscience. It's our brains are the captain of the ship. So why would we try and get that in the best place we can? And look, I'm going to start a new series now that hopefully you'll find interesting. And again, love your feedback. I love people who are writing in and asking to add certain things or help with some of the situations they've got. If I can, that'd be great. Again, happy to research and try and find some information. But today I really want to talk about, what are the main things that we struggle with? What are the main things we struggle with socially, emotionally? Because humans are emotional beings. We don't often work on logic. I think one time I went into a place to buy a dishwasher, and I was we had a new house, trying to get a new dishwasher and at least getting some quotes. And I remember walking out with a coffee machine. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And we get home, plug it in, all excited. And as I was plugging in, I'm going, there's still a hole in the space where the dishwasher is supposed to be. But I've now got a coffee machine. What just happened? And it was buying on emotion. The sales guy was obviously awesome and I was very weak. But at the end of the day, we are emotional people. And it doesn't necessarily mean we work on logic all the time. So look, when your mind feels like a battlefield, how can you find calm and regain control? And again, we're talking about mental health and emotional regulation for yourself right now. And before you go, this is too deep, whatever, how are you traveling right now? Like if you're listening to this podcast and no matter where you be, gym, walking, dog, sitting at home, I don't know, maybe you're starting to cook, maybe you're just on the way to work, way to school. How are you traveling with your relationships? How are you traveling with your inner connection? How are you traveling with yourself? What are some things that you struggle with every single day? What are some things that are like Groundhog Day, which means they just happen over and over again, and it's actually not improving? So, this affects everyone. So I want you to think about this. Have you ever felt anxious, burnt out, or emotionally all over the place? This episode's for you, because here's one thing: you're not broken. Your brain's actually doing what it's designed to do, but it can be rewired, and that's the important thing to understand. The listener, you want to feel in control of your emotions. You want to wake up without a knot in your stomach, go through the day without snapping at people, and maybe sleep without your brain running on high alert or the high reel every single day, thinking about the awkward things you've done throughout the day. Sometimes people just live on the edge, and that's a big problem. Sometimes people's anxiety just whispers, what if this all goes wrong? Or your depression says, what's the point? Your stress is you working from place to place for survival instead of strategy, and that's what our brains are designed to do. They look to go away from danger, and so they look for survival. They look for all the dangers all the time. And here's a sobering truth fact I got from the World Health Organization. It says that 1 in 8 people worldwide live with a diagnosed mental health disorder. And you got to think about it, many more are undiagnosed, and they're silently struggling. And that's why I asked you to start, like, how are you actually traveling? Because internally, most people are exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. And when people can't regulate their emotions, and for example, if you can't regulate your emotion, it impacts, your work and your health, but also impacts those people around you and all those important relationships that you probably need in your life. And don't worry, I've been there. Burning out, running on empty, feeling like my emotions were in the driver's seat. But look, here's the good news. Your brain is not fixed. And some people have heard about this before, and neuroscience has come a long way in the last 10, 12 years. But I think even when I was teaching, it's really important that once the students understood their brains could change and they had the ability to rewire itself, it means they could understand, have power to know that they could change the way they could think, feel, and react at any age. And you're no different. And this isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about building a mental toolkit to navigate, life's ups and downs and without losing your true authentic self. So here's a 3-step framework we'll walk through today really quickly. So 3 things I want you to think about. Number 1, pause and name it. And that means this talks about why labeling your emotions takes away their power. Really important. Done this before. through relationships. Really important, this one. Number 2, rewire the small habits. Use micro practices to retrain your brain. We do the same thing. Most of us do the same thing 80% of the time, and we think the same thing 80% from yesterday to today. 80%. All right? If you're driving to work or driving to school or riding your bike, whatever, are you going exactly the same way you always do? Oh, yes, Gary, but it's faster. We do the same thing subconsciously 80% of the time. Right? And the third thing, anchoring the present. We just finished a mindfulness series, but grounding yourself so you're not living in the future or past is so important for your mental health and social emotional regulation. All right? So again, don't just listen to this episode and nod along. Pick one of these tools I share today and actually try it this week and see how the neuroscience or the neuroplasticity works. See how repetition builds new neural pathways and see if there's a change in your behavior and your connections, and therefore maybe your improvement in your mental health. Okay, here's the first one. Ready? Pause and name it. Your amygdala, that part of your brain that's responsible for fear and emotional reactivity, calms down when you label what you're feeling. So instead of saying, I'm losing it, say something like, I'm feeling anxious because I'm worried I'm going to miss this deadline. Right? Rather than say, I just hate driving to work every single day, just say, I just get so frustrated being banked up in traffic every single day. It just costs me so much time. Name it. I'm frustrated. All right? And then say the reason why. An American study found that effectively labeling things puts feelings into words, and that significantly reduces the activity in the amygdala, the emotional center of your brain, and that allows your prefrontal cortex, that rational brain, that thinking part of your brain, to actually take the lead. So try it. Try not to swear for your people around you, but try and say it. Just pause and name how you're feeling. I'm feeling frustrated because this breakup. It's breaking my heart. This has happened. I don't know if I'll ever get over this, but I'm so sad right now. All right, put it on paper, have a journal, say it out loud, say it to yourself in the mirror. All right, doesn't mean you're going to be perfect the next day or 2 minutes later, but it actually starts getting that emotional brain calmed down because your thinking brain, more rational, comes over and resides in that's what we need. All right, try it. No matter how silly it sounds. Number 2, rewire those small habits. Neuroscience works like this. Neurons that fire together work or wire together. So if you constantly rehearse stress in your brain, it becomes more and more stress. If you rehearse calm, even in microbursts, your brain starts to default there. So that sounds really easy to do, and it's not easy to do. I'm not saying it is. But whatever you constantly rehearse in your thoughts becomes reality, because that's how our neural pathways work. They become thicker and stronger on what we keep telling it. So what are you telling your brain every single day? What are the things you wake up in the morning and go, bang, straight into instant stress? How can we start rewiring those little things, those little microbursts, to change that? So here's some little hacks that we might be use. Have a 2-minute breath reset. So do a 4, 7, 8 breathing. And I found this really hard at the start. So, inhale for 4 through your nose, like really deep inhale breath. Hold for a massive 7 seconds, so hold it. And then breathe out slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. All right. I was too worried about the numbers when I first did that, but after a while, you do maybe 3 or 4 sets of that. It's just crazy how much that can actually slow things down. Like that's a minute and a half. 2 minutes to reset. Everyone can find 2 minutes in the day. All right, how about this second one for a brain hack? For calm, maybe a gratitude shift. So write down 3 things you appreciate, even if they're tiny. What are 3 things right now? You know the power you get when you actually text someone, a friend, etc., how grateful you are for them and why? Like the feeling you get when you send that message is amazing. And if they send something back and say, look, thanks, that's awesome, I really appreciate you too, it's like a double dopamine hit. I tried that with my wife once, sent her flowers. She asked what I did wrong, but it's important you actually say those words and get yourself out there and be vulnerable, because that's how you actually, connect anyway, when you feel like you belong and can be vulnerable. All right, here's another brain hack. Movement triggers: stand, stretch, walk every hour to break the stress cycle. We know that cortisol builds up in the body, testosterone builds up in the body. It can actually have that feeling of, tight tension. If you can't get rid of that release, that emotional release and physical release, get up, move, stretch. Just do it for short bursts. Again, we tell ourselves we're too busy to do these things. get up and move, get that cortisol out of your body. All right. Again, that can help you feel more calm. Relax the amygdala, the emotional center, prefrontal cortex switches on, thinking part of your brain. More logical, less stress. Makes sense. Okay, and here's number 3, anchor in the present. We talked about 3 things. So the first one we talked about was pause and name it. Second one, rewire the small habits. Third, anchor in the present. So anxiety pulls you into the future. Depression drags you into the past. So mindfulness plants you in the now. It sort of breaks both of those cycles of anxiety and depression. So again, simple grounding exercises. I love doing this with a group of TAFE students once, and some are up to 65 years old and some are as young as 16, 17. But we did this one. We went outside and we were all standing on the veranda out at, I think it was Brackenridge TAFE. And I said, right, nice and quiet, everyone, just for a couple of minutes. And I'm going to get your feedback at the end, but I want you to be present. And we did the 4, 7, 8 breath. And then after that, I said, what, name 5 things you can see in your brain. Don't say it out loud. And then I went, okay, what's 4 things you can feel right now? So it'd be your clothes on your skin, your hands on the rail, the breeze hitting your face, your hair hitting your face, whatever it might be. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can actually smell, which is actually a hard one to do. And 1 thing you can taste. There's something still in your mouth you've had for lunch or you've had a drink from, you can still taste. And that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise really gets people focused on the now. And I've had a couple of people at the end of that actually say, this is awesome. Can we connect outside just to chat about some other strategies you've got? Because I feel my brain is always, thinking in the future, and I do feel anxious. So try those ones out. You've got nothing to lose if nothing's changed so far. Here's another. I'd love to do the research to back up what we're talking about, but Harvard research found that people spend 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're doing. Donald Miller, who's a massive into marketing, says that our brains 30% of the time are actually off wandering. They're not actually focused. So if 47% of our waking hours is thinking about something other than what we're doing, what happens? This wandering mind is linked to lower happiness, obviously, because we can't be present. If you don't take control of your emotional regulation, you risk damaging relationships from overreactions, chronic health problems from long-term stress, burnout that takes months or years to recover from. And also you just get into that cyclic habit. Again, I asked this question. When you woke up this morning, what was the things that you're worried or stressed about? Are you a person who gets up every single morning and you're refreshed and you're ready to go if the day had no stress? I've never met someone like that. Maybe you are out there. But surely there's times that, you're struggling and worrying about failure or, Groundhog Day things where you do stress about certain things over and over again. So just remember, when you master your emotional regulation, you respond instead of react, and you stop spiraling into what if thinking. Right? You feel more energy, clarity, and peace. And you know what? Here's another hidden secret. People love energy. People are attracted to energy. Right? They want to be around. We want to be around people who are leading and know where they're going. So look, here's some action steps for the week. Number 1, name 1 emotion per day as it comes up. Just name it. All right? Write it down, say it out loud, put it on a whiteboard, whatever you want to do, just name it. 2, practice 1 brain hack. Breathe, gratitude, movement. Just do it daily. Just practice 1. Doesn't have to be for long. And number 3, use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding at least once when you feel triggered. And don't rush the process. It's 2 minutes. Right? It's 2 minutes. In a 24-hour day, we might sleep for 7 or 8 hours. You can find 2 minutes in a 16-hour day to do that. No one's not too busy for 2 minutes. Okay, so here's some journal prompts. Number 1, what emotions do I feel most often? And what patterns do I notice? Write it down, please. Again, what gets measured improved? What emotions do you feel most often? And what patterns do you notice with that? We're identifying our neural pathways there. Number 2, when in your day do you feel most in control of your emotions? Write down when using your day. And 2, when you're least in control. So mine's definitely when I wake up and the kids are still in bed and I make my first coffee and start to do some work, and that's when I feel in control of my emotions, definitely then. Least in control, probably in between appointments, driving the car to the next appointment and need to be at my best and stressed out with time and location and making sure I'm in the right frame of mind for that person to help. When's yours? And number 3, if your brain is rewiring itself every single day, which it does, what new patterns do you want it to create? Because you are the captain of a ship. And your brain is not your enemy. It's actually your ally. And you can change your emotional patterns. You can build a calmer and stronger mind. Start small, repeat often, and let neuroplasticity do the rest. And if this episode has helped you, share it with someone who might need it. And next week, we're tackling a topic we all need to hear about, and that's resilience and self-esteem. Thanks for joining me on GW Unspoken.